Hello everyone, so this is the explanation video for the week of June 22nd, and this is our first position with black to play. Currently, what can we notice in this position? Well, first, the material count on black is down 2 pawns, while there's 2 extra pawns on the queen side. So this means if we don't do anything immediate, we will just be down 2 pawns. So I think in the game, black didn't find the win. He played something like queen b5, eventually lost the game. So how can we go about trying to solve this problem? Well, we'll start with checks and captures like always. Well, let's think. If we take on h5, that doesn't help us. We're just down a rook. We give a check. We also use the rook for nothing. If 92 check, then queen takes e2. And if queen f1 check. Oh, actually, this move is interesting. What do we notice? If king takes, and suddenly after rook h1, it's checkmate. But why does rook takes? And 92 is not made because the queen's defending that. That's very interesting. Once we see queen f1 check, we see that it's only not made because queen's protected e2. So let's see, on the first move, what can we do? We need to distract the queen from protecting e2. What comes to mind? Well, g4 is actually a very strong move. And after this, white's completely lost. Objectively best for white to play with something like rook d4, and then we just take the queen, rook takes c4, rook takes c4, we're just up the rook. I think even you can play something like 92. 92 is also winning. It's even strong. Takes. We're starting to promote. Okay, everything's winning for black after rook d4. Now, of course, the main point is after queen f6. We have queen f1 check. Again, king takes, rook h1 is mate. But now after rook takes, the queen has been deflected from e2 if we compare the positions. And we have 92 mate. So once we notice this, we should find rook g4, and then it becomes pretty simple in black. After g4, black would win the game pretty easily. So I think this example shows how important it is to consider every check and capture, no matter how ridiculous it is. Queen f1 looks absolutely ridiculous, just giving the queen for nothing. But then when we see this move, we notice it has some fighting. There's some point in it. And then once that, then we'll come to the move g4, and we might even win brilliantly like this. Queen f4. Unfortunately, I cannot find anything. So next position. I believe it's this position, it's black to play. Okay, again, we should look at the material count. Currently, black is down in exchange. He only has a knight for rook. But what else can we notice here? Black actually has good compensation for the exchange because you see his pieces are very advanced and the white king is open. Also notice that the queen is kind of trapped on h5. We can't win it yet at the moment, but it's running out of squares. So, and we also notice the white pieces are kind of out of the game, so black should have something in this position. So, okay, let's start with checks and captures again. Well, in this position, none of the checks make sense because we don't want to trade queens. Yeah, for example, if you take, yes, you get a pawn back. But you're still down exchange. Okay, black might not be much worse here, but we're not winning the game with move like queen g5. So none of the checks and captures work because I mean we're just trading queens. And well, what else do we notice when we took a survey at this position? We noticed the queen on h5 is in a bad spot. So let's try to trap this queen. What about bishop g4? But unfortunately, he has the h4 square. We're not catching this queen anytime soon. G6 looks tempting. G6, because the queen has no squares at the moment, but G6 allows him to take on h6, and we're not trapping the queen here either. So we know the queen has no moves currently, and we know that unfortunately G6 or bishop G4 don't work. So how can we try to improve on this idea? On these ideas? Well, the problem with bishop G4 is that the h4 square. It blocked our queen from protecting h4. So maybe we can try to improve on this by playing knight g6, controlling the square, and we're threatening bishop g4. Unfortunately, this also doesn't work because white can protect against the threat of bishop g4, something like bishop h3, trading bishops, and we can't win the queen either. Well, how about the g6 idea? Well, the g6 idea didn't work because h6 is hanging. But if we try to, let's say, bolster the h6 pawn with knight g4, this doesn't work either. White has at least queen h4, and again, queen escapes. But here we also notice that the queen here also has no move. But unfortunately, let's say white made, I don't know, some move. Unfortunately, we can't trap the queen with knight g4 because queen h4. Again, he has the squares, so we can't trap the queen is stuck, but we don't have any way to attack it. Well, wouldn't it be nice to put the rook on h8 because then the queen would be trapped? How can we use that to our advantage here? I think I mentioned when I gave this puzzle that this was an unorthodox move, and combined with a hint and the idea that rook should be on h8, I think it should be quite now it should be quite obvious that black should play rook h8. It's actually a brilliant move which wins on the spot for black. White simply has no defense. For example, if you play a natural move like rook a d1, you play g6, you have to take on h6, I play king g8, and suddenly the rook is already on h8 and I trap the king. So g6 is threatened. White really can't do anything to save the queen. I don't know, you might try g6 to block the move g6, but suddenly after the capture, the pawn appears on g6 anyway. So this doesn't work either. Maybe you can try bishop h3, but again, g6 works, take on h6, king g8, and again the queen is trapped. So yeah, so we should, I guess, notice some important ideas in the position. And well, first we notice the king is weak, but the queen's protecting the king. But we also notice that the queen is trapped, and from there we can find some ideas with g6 and bishop g4. They don't work at the moment, and then we can try to improve upon those ideas, and then we find the move for rook h8, combined with some hints, and it's a brilliant move that wins the game. So our next position is this position. Yeah, I think it's this position. It's black to move. This one is, I believe it'll be quite difficult for you guys to find solution to this. position, so that's why I gave a hint. The hint is that the correct move here is a silent move, quiet move. So no capture or check or anything. So, but if we were to think about this position normally, what would we conclude? Well, material is equal, like material balance is equal, and but we see that both kings are kind of weak. The black king is open, but the white king is also weak because black has many pieces, many pieces staring down the white king, and our knight is currently hanging. So maybe we should do something about that. But first thing we should know is that the knight is actually not hanging because, okay, let's say we did something. Gives a move to white. It's not actually not hanging because we have queen e3 check, which brings the knight back. So that's an important detail. We don't have to move the knight right now. So we can use the time to do something else. If there are no hints, what will we consider first? Well, I think we would start with checks on queen e3 check. Unfortunately, after king b1, we just push the king to a safer spot and we shift nothing. You guys can check like queen takes b2, rook takes c2, knight d3, knight e2, all these checks for yourselves. It's really absolutely nothing for black here either. But interesting is rook takes c3. It's an interesting capture. It's a typical idea in the Sicilian for anyone who plays Sicilian defense. With my rook takes c3 is usually good. We sack in exchange, rook for knight, but we open the king and destroy his pawn structure. After, as you see, after takes, his pawn structure shattered and his king open. In this particular position, it actually doesn't work. Except for take takes. How will we follow up here? Well, queen e3 check still doesn't work, but we do have a move like bishop a2, trying to play queen b1 mate, but unfortunately, I don't expect you guys to see this, but white has a great resource, bishop b5 check, intercepting the b file. It's a check and blocking the b file. Black's forced to take. Okay, white sacrificed a piece to block the b file. So black has 2 pieces for the rook, but the pawn is permanently on the b file. So the white king can go to the b file, and white has moved king b2. Actually, I'll probably flip it like this: king b2, and actually white is probably winning here because bishop's hanging, the knight's hanging because we no longer have king e3 check. And I believe this is how white won in the game by itself. Just trap rook takes c3 and bishop a2 and miss bishop b5 check. Great defensive resource. But since the hint was that it's a quiet move, we should think in that direction without checks and captures. Well, the check on e3 doesn't work because king escapes to b1. So we notice that the white king is in danger here, but we don't have enough pieces. So what can we do? I think with enough thought, you can notice that since queen e3, the king runs to b1, we should take away the b1 square. And then the logical becomes to move bishop a2. Not easy to see at first sight, but it's a really strong move because, like I said, we take away the b1 square, and now queen e3 is a deadly mating threat because the king has no squares anymore. And after bishop a2, we just have to calculate maybe a few variations, but not too much. I mean, queen e3 is threatened, and it's really hard to deal with this threat. Like also has now the threat of rook takes c3. In addition to this, because now if you take queen b1 is going to be checkmate. Okay, most natural for white would be to take this bishop back, but then black. Now that the c file has been opened, we remove the defender in d3. With check, the pawn is pinned, so he has to take with the rook. But now the c2 pawn's undefended. We have 2 rooks eyeing down this. We should just choose the correct rook. It's Actually, rook fc2, because obviously if king d1, then queen takes b2 is checkmate. But the point is, after king d1, we use this rook, because now we open the avenue for the queen. We have queen g1 coming in. Rook f1, queen takes f4, and checkmate. So you can't take a bishop because it's force mate. Queen e3 is unstoppable, and I mean, you can try to think about it yourselves, but there's really not much I can do. If you can try something like rook f8, but king d7. I mean, if you take the rook, queen e3 is going to be mate. These spike checks for white don't really help. Queen e3 is just a deadly threat, and okay, objectively for white, the best would probably be something like queen f8 check, king b7, with idea to sacrifice the queen to remove a rook and now take the bishop, because now black no longer has a rook attacking c2, but white gave up a queen for only a rook and a bishop, and this is definitely not enough. This position is completely hopeless, so black is easily going to win here. So I guess again we would maybe see that queen e3 check doesn't work. We have king b, because of king b1. Try to improve on this idea, and we know that this is the correct move. So then eventually we should find move bishop a2, controlling b1 square. And yeah, there's really not much I can do. And because queen e3 is a much stronger threat than anything I can do here. So yeah, again, the key is to improve on our first ideas. Of course, our instinct is check, but then it's king b1. So we improve on our initial ideas with such moves like bishop a2. Move on to the next position. I believe it's this position. Hopefully it's right. Yeah, I think so. Again, should make some observations about the position. Well, first of all, material count. We're down a pawn. It's bishop and pawn against the knight. Well, that's not really what's important here. What's really important we should see is that king is very weak on h1. We have a rook stuck up in its throat, and we have a knight nearby. We have potential discovery against this king. Our knight can jump into action at some point. Of course, we can bring the rook if needed to. So those are the basic observations about the position. But concretely, we should it's our move where black our queen is hanging, and our knight is hanging at the same point at the same time. So we have to do something quick. It would be nice to consider some checks like rook h2, but we're just losing the rook. It's really not much we can do because I mean, our queen is cut off from the play. I mean, for the moment, and we really only have a rook on g2 and a knight on h4, so it's probably not enough to make a white king here. We need to bring more forces into the game. What can we do to bring more pieces in? We try to bring this rook, but then we're just giving up the queen to nothing. We don't have any mate here. I think it'd be quite attractive if we could give a discovery with the queen. So let's bring the queen into the game. How will we do this? So our queen is hanging. Let's say we play something like queen c3. We're attacking two rooks, attacking h3. Unfortunately, this does not work because I think white can at least take here. Wait, no. Actually, taking is probably lost right because we have a mating attack here. I mean, it doesn't work. It kind of works. I won't get into detail. Though I also have a move like bishop e3. This also works because he connects the rooks. He blocks the queen h3 threat, and he's starting rook c1. Our knight's still hanging. Okay, so this doesn't work. But maybe let's try to consider all moves. We're just considering the most obvious moves right now. Maybe consider other moves, like no matter how ridiculous they look. What about something like knight f4? It looks ridiculous because our queen's sitting. We just simply want to give a discovery with the queen. So white has to take our queen. And okay, we still have no checks, no useful checks. We have to bring more pieces into the game. Okay, I think we can spot the typical pattern Arabian knight mate. It's basically when there's a knight on f3 and it's king on h1 and the rook g1, rook h2 will be checkmate. This is a typical pattern. But unfortunately, in this position, white can just take our knight, and he has both mates covered. So knight f4 doesn't work either. But on that same idea, we should consider 93 because it's his like basically twin brother. 93. We're threatening to just give a discovery with the rook, and then we have queen g2 mate. So he has to take our queen again. So let's do the same idea. What about knight f3 now? We're threatening rook h2 mate. Now once we come to this point, we have a sudden realization that white has no defense against rook h2 checkmate. Bishop's blocked off. The pawn on h3 blocks the queen from protecting h2. White simply has no defense for checkmate. Let's say knight takes a7, we simply play king b8. And white's no checks, knight c6, we take the knight. It's simply going to be rook h2 mate. Yeah, so after 93, this is the winning move. Because we simply build the Arabian knight mate, and white can stop it. White can try something like f3 to block the discovery. So as you know, we can play knight takes f3. This will be mate because we're still threatening now h2, or we can even do the same idea. Queen takes f3 is also winning. After knight takes again, we'll have this mate. So I can't do anything. So I guess this one would be hard to come to logically, but I think again comes down to the most forcing moves. 93 is not a check, but it's almost like a check because we're like threatening mate on the next move. So he has to take, and then we find knight f3. So I guess we're in such positions with like open kings, try to look for the most forcing moves. And usually when the white king is so weak like this, moves like 93 usually work whenever they work, and knight f3. And it'll also be good to recognize this pattern, the Arabian knight on f3, and combine with the rook. Rook g1, rook h2 is a typical pattern. White king is mated here. Yeah, so it'll be nice to consider most for our next position is this. This position. This position. Let's make some observations about the position again. Materials equal. It looks like a relatively quiet position. Nothing really is going on, but we can try to keep some facts in the back of our mind. Well, first of all, king and queen are in e7, and we do have a potential knight of 5-4. And that's important to keep in mind here. So maybe we can use that later to advantage. Other than that, see the knight on c4 is unprotected. We have an X-ray on the knight. Potentially, we could attack this knight. Yeah, that's about it. That's about it. What we can conclude about this position. Well, I mean, I guess we can start with checks and captures, but there's not a lot of them. These sacrifices to open the pawn shelter on the black king, it doesn't work because the rook on a5 protects the whole fifth rank. And okay, of course, queen h6 or queen f6 is nonsense. We just give away our queen. But what can we somehow combine our observations? We know the rook is important guarding the fifth rank. We know the knight is weak. We have some X-ray here. So then should be clear and not too difficult after that to find the move d5 because the discovery against the knight was also threatening the rook. So once again, it kind of comes down to forcing moves because in such puzzles like this, usually you start with the forcing move where, or a forced sequence of moves where we end up winning in the end. So d5 is actually a really nice move because we're attacking the rook on e6, attacking the knight on c4. And it's a double attack, so the only way he can get out of it is c takes d5. That's the only way. But what has that done for us? Well, we sacrificed the pawn, but we cut his rook's defense of the sixth rank. As we observed before, he has a king and queen are in a relatively bad position because they can come into a fork. And yes, we use that here. We have knight f5. Again, it's all about forcing moves. Here it's a check. I mean, it's a fork, so we're forcing him to take again because otherwise we win the queen. He has to take the knight, and well, what have we done so far? We lost. We sacrificed the pawn and the knight, but we broke his king's shelter, his pawn shelter around the king. The king is wide open now. It has opened the g file for us. Queen g3 check. King h7. There's nothing better for black. And now the problem for black is now we're playing rook b8. No one has guarded the 8th rank, and we're as you see, first we cut the rook on the 6th rank, and then we open the pawn shelter, and then we invade. And black, next move we're just threatening to checkmate with our queen and rook, queen g8, queen h8, and the fall by rook g8 checkmate. So we're just threatening checkmate. Black has to do something about this. He can try a move like rook e1 check, where the idea is after rook takes, king h2, queen e5, and he's pinned our queen. If we play f4 to break the pin, our rook's hanging, so that doesn't work. But fortunately for us, we can ignore this because, as we said, we don't really care about the material at this point. We're just trying to mate with the queen and rook. For example, if he's greedy and takes the rook, then we're playing queen g8 check, h6, queen h8 check, king g6, rook g8 checkmate. These king's way too wide open with no defenders around the king. As we said before, what about this queen e5 move? Trying to pin the queen to the king, but then in this case the rook's hanging on e1. That's why we played king h2 instead of taking immediately, because now the rook's hanging on e1. After queen e5, rook takes e1. Obviously he cannot take because now our queen's not pinned anymore. Again, we have the same checkmating pattern. Okay, we didn't play f4, so the rook's still protected, so he has to trade queens. But then we have this winning endgame because okay, we picked up a rook but sacrificed a pawn and knight, but basically whites up material, and not only that, but the king is still weak, and he has very bad pawn structure here, a lot of weaknesses in his position. For example, it wouldn't be so bad if he could play rook a3 and pick up another pawn. But as we said, the king is still weak, still in the defenders, and we can still checkmate him even with just 2 rooks. We're threatening rook h8 and rook g8, and it's actually going to be checkmate as well here. So it's still winning here. The best for black may be to play queen e8 to sacrifice his queen to stop checkmate. We'll take it. Now he has a rook, knight, and a pawn. For the queen, in some positions it's enough, but in this position it's not, because the king is still wide open, and as we said, just look at his pawn structure, has so many weaknesses. This is close to loss for black as well. So what is important here, when we see this position, we should again make some observations. See that we have a fork, we have some x-rays with the unprotected knight c4, and if we combine those together, then we might find this move d5, and then we can just go down the forcing path, and basically white wins. So once again, it all comes down to just finding the correct force move. As you see, basically this whole sequence is forced. There's nothing black have done instead. So yeah, and I should add, for example, black is lost here because white can play something like queen g7, queen c7, king g7, and then either rook b1, like trying to come in to mate, or rook d1 is also not bad. Yeah, but basically, once we find this tactical sequence, we should win the game. Okay, our next position. So yeah. This position, okay. I should decide to give you guys a pretty simple puzzle to for a change of pace to compare the difficulty of the previous puzzle with this one, for example. Well, black to play. Again, we should notice some things. Well, we're down a lot of material. We have only a bishop and a pawn for 2 rooks. But again, we see this king is weak, and it's our move. So once again, we should start with the most forcing moves, checks and captures, as always. So let's start with checks. Well, we don't want to give a check from here. This is queen's guard, yeah? So we should give a check on c3. It's pretty natural, because it's really forcing, because we force one move, because white has only one move, because we take away the b2 square. So he has to come up to a4. Once again, let's apply the same method. The most forcing moves in the position. What can we do here? Well, obviously we can give a check here, but then he just goes back, and we see we have repeated the position, accomplished absolutely nothing. So that's a win for black. Now for king a4, what other checks do we have? Queen. Well, we don't have any other real checks of the queen, because queen guards this check on c6. Well, the king's on a light square, so a dark square bishop can't check either. But we do have this pawn check. Okay, it might look kind of ridiculous. You're down so much material, now you're giving away another pawn. But okay, we're drawing the king closer into our position, and okay, it's a forcing move, so at least we should check it. So b5, he has to take it, again forced. Let's continue with our forcing moves. Well, the queen has no other check but on c4. We could consider a6, but then really, the white king is really just running away here. We don't have enough pieces, but queen c4 check. But again, we should consider this move more than a6, because here white has 3 possible moves, but after check he only has 1 possible move. So again, start from the most forcing moves to least forcing moves in queen c4. Check. It's quite attractive because the king has to go to a5. Now it's stuck on a5. Well, again, let's check the most forcing moves, and I think pretty soon you should see that this guy in f6, his bishop can join the attack. Bishop d8 check. King has no moves on a5. So this is basically checkmate. White has to block with queen b6, and we can have a pleasant choice of which way we want to capture the mate. Once again, this is I think comparatively much easier. Again, just check the most forcing moves, and you should be able to stumble upon this pretty forced sequence ending checkmate. And I think our last position is this one's interesting. Yes, it's this position. Black to play. Again, we should make some observations. Well, first of all, material count. We have a rook for a bishop and 2 pawns, so materials around even. But okay, both kings are kind of exposed here. Black king is exposed to a lot of checks, but the white king, is stuck on h1. We have heavy artillery with the queen and the rook. So both kings are relatively in peril, and it's our move. So this is a very good advantage for us. I believe let's say we should start with the most forcing moves again. Unfortunately, it's not a 1 move back rank checkmate because bishop's guarding it. We do have the move rook g1. It's also a very forcing move with a check. So let's check this. Because unlike queen e1, it's not the end of variation after he takes on e1. After rook g1 takes, we can continue the attack. We take g1. What's the most forcing move? Well, we should continue with a check again. Well, we can't check on g7 because bishops guard that. Can't check on e1 because bishops guard that. The pawn check makes no sense because we won't make him with just a lone queen. So we should check on e3. And once we get to this point, we should see that it's actually checkmate. Because, for example, if king f1, then queen e2, we inch closer. This is a typical pattern. The queen mates with the defender, with the helper. And it's pretty forced too. Queen g2 mates. And if king h1, okay, we don't have a back rank with queen e1, but we do have a back rank with queen c1. So queen c1, it is a back rank because the pawn protects g2. Bishop e1, we take it as checkmate. So once again, the most forcing moves. It's actually quite necessary for black to play rook g1 here. It's a nice combination, and it's just forced checkmate. But you might not think that it's necessary, but it's actually quite necessary for black to play rook g1. For example, if you don't play it, black is not really that much better at all. For example, if you play f2, it's a very natural move. You want a queen, you want to mate with rook g1, you have one plus queen e1 because it's not pawn protecting e1. But in this case, we should not forget that our king itself is pretty exposed, and it's actually after queen f5 check, it's actually perpetual. White will give a lot of checks with this queen. We can't escape from the check is actually a draw. So it's actually quite imperative that if you want to win the game, you should see this. It's quite short, but quite pleasing combination. Just for check with you. Once again, I think the main lesson is again to forcing those checks, captures, made in one threats, um, on big threats. So basically, yeah. Just when you get a puzzle, just check what the most forcing moves are. If they don't work, then work your way down the list to least less forcing moves, and finally to the least forcing moves. If you get that far, anyway. So yeah, so I think that's all I have for this week. Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll see you guys next week for next week's lecture puzzles.